Very good afternoon. I'm Chaiti Narula. There is an atmosphere of gloom, fear and panic today that surrounds us all as India is battling the second wave of the pandemic, touted to be more dangerous than the first one. Anywhere and everywhere you look, there is a palpable amount of anxiety amidst patients, their relatives, the doctors as well. It is taking a toll on mental health. Let's acknowledge that collectively as a society. Let's also accept and understand mental health issues in the midst of this gloom better. First up, take a look at this report.
With the country gasping for oxygen and ICU beds running out, an atmosphere of gloom surrounds the country. Panic, anxiety are at an all-time high. People are dealing with the loss of loved ones and the ability to cope with such a loss in an era of social distancing matters.
It's a very distressing situation in NCR right now. All the WhatsApp groups, Insta stories, tweets, everything is only talking about the COVID situation, the emergency that we seem to be in. There are no hospital beds. Friends, colleagues are going door to door, hospital to hospital, looking for beds for their grandparents, for their ailing brother, their sister, or worse still, people who have comorbidities and are unable to get help at the right time. It's a very scary situation for all of us.
आज से 4 दिन पहले भी ऑक्सीजन ख़त्म हो गया था और आज फिर ऑक्सीजन की दिक्कत आ चुकी है यहाँ पे। हॉस्पिटल वाले की आपके पेशेंट की छुट्टी करा सकते हो आप। उस समय बोला था, अभी नहीं बोला। और मैंने सर से पूछा छुट्टी का जी ऑक्सीजन की आपकी अपनी व्यवस्था कर लीजिए, ये वो ऐसा बोला इन लोगों।
The biggest mental health issues today are fear, anxiety, depression. Coping with them requires a systematic understanding of what is going on exactly, the acceptance of it all, backing oneself with facts and speaking up and seeking help of qualified mental health care practitioners. In New Delhi, Chaiti Narula, India Today.
As you already saw, there is a fear, gloom, anxiety looming large amongst people all around as India battles the second wave. Today I'm being joined by Dr. Sameer Parikh. He's the leading psychiatrist, and Dr. Prateek Samdani. He's a leading COVID specialist. They're going to be allaying your fears, and also Dr. Parikh is going to be counseling us all viewers. Dr. Parikh, I'm going to begin with you. How does one keep sanity alive in such a time when there is a tremendous amount of panic that is set in? Anywhere you look, including social media, your television, you speak to your relatives, you speak to your phone, people are just panicking.
Two aspects to this, Chaiti. Let me start by telling your viewers, right now I am in quarantine because a family member has tested positive. And these are such times. So yes, I understand the anxiety firsthand as well. I understand the distress, but at the same time, what is it that makes us survive this? It's our support systems, talking to family, talking to friends, lots of calls, and keeping your treatment in the hands of your trusted doctors, not overdoing, not hoarding, not running here and there. That's something we need to do. At the same time, we need to appreciate anxiety to something as mammoth as this is natural. You accept it. You work on it by taking care of yourself. All behaviors that you do to ensure that you can prevent it from you being affected. At the same time, you lend a hand of support to whoever you can. That's how you bring positivity. On social media, my one bit is, this is not the time to figure out the blame.
Yeah.
This is the time to figure out what you can, what I can, what we can do. Wait for the blame. There is enough time in our life to do that.
Yeah.
Right now, let's use positive messages, and positive messages should outnumber the negativity in our conversations. That's very important for the well-being of the collective here.
Okay, so that's very important for the collective well-being. Dr. Parikh, stay on with us. Dr. Pradeep, can you help our viewers how to help them? Tell us how to help them. They need to panic less. The only way they are going to be able to panic less, and even I, for that matter, as a journalist, today will panic less if I have some facts with me on people who need oxygen. Who needs it really? There are drugs that are out of supply. You go on Twitter and people are searching and scavenging for drugs. Who needs it really and who does not need it? Because people get anxious about not getting them when they really are in trouble, and that creates more anxiety.
Yes, good afternoon, Chaiti. I completely agree with you. So, however, as we've discussed, this is a huge disease. It's a burden on the society, the patient, the healthcare workers, and it's causing an equal amount of mental trauma and stress. However, let me just tell you, we are actually more frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than the reality.
Okay.
I'm not trying to say that this disease is a small bit. It's taken a task and toll and death on several and many families, and crores of people have been hurt. However, we must draw a line, and if we have to have this disease, or a family member or kith and kin gets this disease, we must face it courageously, and it's possible. So do we rush to a hospital if you've got COVID-19? The answer is no. There are clear-cut indications and clear-cut guidelines to tell us who gets what sort of treatment. People who've got mild symptoms, when I say mild, they've got probably loss of smell, taste, some light fever, some body ache, can easily be managed at home. These are asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic people. They can be managed at home, and they can be well taken care by oral tablets and monitoring systems. The best monitoring device that every patient should have is a pulse oximeter that gives us the oxygen saturation, and a thermometer that gives us the temperature. Of course, your clinical symptoms will always be entitled to your treating physician. The patients who've got a more moderate to severe disease are the ones whose oxygen level drops. And I always tell the patients that if your oxygen level goes down by more than 3% of your baseline, so suppose you've started at 96 and it goes to 93, you need some more attention, and you may be a candidate to go to hospital. So people who've got high-grade fever, people who are breathless, people who've got a low oxygen saturation need to get into hospital. I think when the whole country is in a crisis, where there's a shortage of beds, there's a shortage of oxygen, we should make sure these asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic patients, one, do not want to come to hospital, two, we should not admit them to hospital, because the more sick are really required there. So people with a low saturation, less than 93, 94, need to go to hospital, and these are the ones that require oxygen, and they should be admitted. But I think this panic of just getting diagnosed with COVID and then calling a doctor and saying, "Doc, get me a bed, I need to go to hospital," is incorrect. You're causing more fear in your family and more distress in your heart. So I think you must draw this line between us.
You know, that's very interesting. I'm also going to come to you, Dr. Pradeep, on the COVID recovery figures, because that mentally helps people better as well. Dr. Parikh, one other big problem we're facing is dealing with the loss of loved ones, and many we've seen have lost their loved ones. The news of family members and friends passing away trickling in. All of us have received it, not just me. Our viewers, must have received it as well. How do we deal with this loss?
Chaiti, there are no words that can be a balm or soothe an individual who experiences loss of a loved one. The reality of a pandemic is that all of us, you, me, all of us have had a direct experience of grief one way or the other. I've always believed that the only thing that can help an individual during the process of grief, that is our social support systems. You know, the roots of who we have been has been an interdependent, collective, interconnected society with family, neighborhood, extended family, friends. The only balm of grief is that you don't feel alone and you are amidst and taken care by your loved ones. And I think through you, I'm reaching out to everybody listening here. Lend a hand, lend an ear, be the emotional support systems. We need to go back to our roots. We are an interdependent, collective society. We need to just be with each other. There is no other substitute.
And that should help most people listening in, that bank on your support system that you have developed over the years. Dr. Prateet, what kind of behavior from our end collectively as a society helps reduce the number of infections and deaths? And the other thing I wanted to check with you, Dr. Prateet, is also doctors like you, do you all face a little bit of stress, trauma, anxiety too?
Oh, yes. So I think as much as the virus and the pandemic is to be blamed for its distort, it's our citizens also who are to a great extent responsible. So we need to have this responsible behavior. And I keep telling everyone this COVIDian behavior. And this COVIDian behavior is typically try to maintain a physical distance. I know everyone's going to smile there and say, in our country, how can we maintain a physical distance? But yes, don't go and tap someone. Don't go and hug someone. Keep a distance when there's place. Please sanitize your hands, wash your hands. And that mask should be above your nose and below your chin. It's not like a jean that comes down your waist. It needs to fit in properly. It's not a style wear. It's a necessity. So if we adapt and adopt these behavioral patterns, I'm sure we'll be able to mitigate the risk to a large extent. I also urge everyone, now that several places have lockdowns or restrictions or curfews, to not unnecessarily go and make social commitments. Don't go for dinners, don't go for functions, avoid large gatherings. And I typically tell everyone, if they're more for, just avoid going to someone there. And it's also a great idea just to make sure to call the person if you have to meet someone, how you've been feeling, have you been in contact with someone? Sometimes more often than not, they said, no, I just went to meet someone 2 days ago. And you probably would know that this person is infected and this person could be unaware. So it's a great idea to check on them. About doctors and healthcare workers, data right from the previous pandemic, the influenza, the big one, and then to Ebola, and then to MERS, and then to SARS-CoV-1, and now to SARS-CoV-2. I feel at least 20% of healthcare workers suffer from one form of psychiatric illness. And I don't call this an illness. It could be fear, it could be anxiety, mania, depression, some of them suicidal tendencies. And the unfortunate part is when as a healthcare team, there are these sisters who are more in women in number. They actually suffer from much larger causes of depression and fear and anxiety. They have homes to take care of. They have their stringent duty to take care of the patients. And then they see all kinds of you see people getting on the ventilator, and it's extremely dangerous. For me as a healthcare worker, it's been a tremendous, terrible 1 year. I've had all forms of thoughts that have gone to my mind. I've had, large times when I've been very anxious right in the beginning of the pandemic. When we go to the main war zone with a PPE, it's impossible to breathe. And the only thing that we come out is just open our PPEs and throw them correctly, trash them correctly. And we actually sit when our colleagues pass by in the hospital or outward somewhere, we actually tell them one more day gone. That's the kind of resentment that patients have. And that's the kind of fear also we have to a great extent, to say that, alas, a day more has passed by and hope this gets over.
So, let me bring in Dr. Parikh here. Dr. Parikh, how can doctors keep their balance in check? It's almost tough given the amount of tragedy that they're seeing around them. And like Dr. Prateet was also explaining, they're also having families. They also have loved ones. They also have to go home to their children. And, maybe parents with comorbidities. And they're dealing on the front lines like Dr. Prateet with COVID patients day in and day out.
No, there are no words. There are absolutely no words. I can, with all humility and with all overwhelming gratitude, we can just say that we need to be exceptionally grateful for what is happening. We call healthcare warriors as warriors because they are the ones at war here, right? And the one thing that the society can do is be compassionate, kind, respectful, dignified in their dealings with healthcare workers, right? And I think that's important. As far as healthcare workers are concerned, so many of our colleagues, my thought and my take on this is the impact of today will be felt tomorrow when this is all over. When you are in war, the bullets keep firing, you are in the zone, you are doing what you can do, everything else becomes secondary. But I think fatigue the burnout, the impact of all of this is going to be felt much later, because right now, as it should be, the healthcare community is doing an absolutely unbelievable superhuman work
Yeah.
in trying to keep all of us on shore. And that's why
all
I'm
of us,
saying
what
that
we
it's
can
also
do,
the
just to
responsibility of all of
support the
us.
healthcare community who is going through all of this,
Yes.
is practice psychologically appropriate COVID behavior and COVID appropriate behavior. So, Dr. Parekh, if you could just list out what it is.
Psychological COVID appropriate behavior, Chaiti, is very important. You know, we've talked about the masks and everything. Let's talk about what you can do. First and foremost, picking up from what Dr. Teek said, please understand, you know, this is not the time to socialize. I mean, I have no other ways to put this. You know, when the entire country and the world is going through what it is going through, no, you say no to all social gatherings, all kinds of gatherings, all kind of functions, all kind of marriages, all kind of parties. This is not the time. But the other social behavior or the COVID appropriate behavior is compassion, support, altruism. We help each other. Make sure you help each person whom you can help. And do not hoard, because if you keep a cylinder that you would never use, it's taking breath away from somebody else. The collective would fail if individuals fail us. So the only way we can win this, compassion, altruism, values, social responsibility, social connectedness, altruism, that's COVID appropriate behavior as well. So what you do, the I needs to be lost in the we, and for the we to succeed, I needs to become responsible. That's the way we fight this out.
Right. And Dr. Pradeep, Dr. Parekh told us, how to keep our mental sanity in check. And there are ways to do this by practicing compassion, by practicing altruism, by practicing psychologically appropriate COVID behavior, like he listed out as well. And the support system that we've grown up with is something that we need to bank on more than ever before to keep our sanity in check. Now, coming to our bodies, Dr. Pradeep, our lungs, our bodies, how do we keep them healthy so that there is less stress mentally, subconsciously, knowing that I will be able to overcome the infection just in case I test positive?
Yes, so Dr. Parekh is going to take care of our mental status and take care of our families, because they also suffer from equal mental disorders as the main healthcare worker does. About strategies to combat or to fight this virus and keeping your body in shape and check, I think there are a couple of do's which everyone know, but I just want to tell them again. Exercise at least for 25-30 minutes a day. Eat healthy. You know, there are people sitting at home because they can't go to office, or they're fearful of going to office, and for restrictions they can't go. And they're junking of pizzas and burgers and fries. This is just going to make it more difficult for you. Not only in terms of weight and size, but also you're going to have an unhealthy body and more difficult to fight the virus in case, unfortunately, you do get it. Avoid alcohol and nicotine, at least in large numbers or large quantity. Please do not have alcohol. That may be probably the happiest hour of the day, of the happiest hours of the day for you if you're drinking alcohol. It will elate you for that moment, but please remember, excessive alcohol is actually a depressant. It depresses you and it makes it more difficult for you to fight infection if you're kind of alcohol dependent. Online classes, yoga, meditation, music, playing with your family, playing with the people online can just keep you mentally more strong. And I often call this like a cognitive or social stimulation. So do get a social stimulation to yourself. Sleep well. Do some breathing exercises. I think yoga is excellent. If you can't do yoga, you have a simple spirometer, which everyone has seen it. It's a small plastic device that has balls. Just blow into them. It's like blowing a trumpet. It's going to expand and improve your lung capacity, and that will help you fight the infection better. So I think this is also important. And spiritual behavior should never be left alone. I'm not trying to be a master guru of spirituality here, but spiritual behavior does have its role. So focus on what can be done and don't ponder on what cannot be done and what's impossible. So do have some spirituality. I'm not telling you to go and sit in front of the temple, for 12 hours a day.
No,
and
but it's
start
faith
praying.
reiteration. It's faith reiteration. Absolutely. And, you know, very well put. And this spirometer I didn't know about. So I think all our viewers can use that particular tip and buy this particular machine. It keeps your lungs healthy. So that also contributes mentally to you knowing that if you test positive, you're going to be doing far better than the others. Dr. Parikh, I'm going to let you have the last word. There's a lot of hesitance today, even in the country, even today, of reaching out to mental health care practitioners. And I bring this up in every show, and I'll continue to do so because we face this particular myth. One last word on breaking this myth and urging people to go out there and consult practitioners like you in case they are facing mental health issues.
So let me break this in steps for you. Step 1, unmute yourself. You unmute yourself to your family, friends, and colleagues. That's your step 1. So if you are struggling, you reach out, you take help, take support. For a lot of us, are putting an effort by recognizing a problem, we'll be able to find a solution. If after doing that and looking at your lifestyle and doing all healthy practices, you feel you are struggling, be it occupationally, be it socially, be it personally, be it with your moods, your thoughts, and it's impairing your functions, talk to your physician. Talk to your physician. Your physician would be able to tell you whether you need to go to a mental health expert in terms of psychiatry or psychology, but use these steps. And the core to this is unmute yourself.
Yeah. So speak up. Speak up in case you're not feeling okay. It's okay to not feel okay. Unmute yourself. Go to a practicing counselor, psychiatrist, psychologist, proper medical expert, a practitioner who knows what he or she is doing, and speak your mind out. They will be able to help you better than anybody. Have a nice support system. Altruism, as Dr. Parikh said, and of course, most importantly, Dr. Prateet highlighted how to keep yourself physically fit so that you remain mentally fit as well. With that, I thank you very much, Dr. Prateet Samdani and Dr. Sameer Parikh, for joining us and helping our viewers out in these difficult times. It's a wrap from me.
Thank you,
Jayati
Jayati.
Narula.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.